Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Adriana Linares.
And I'm Liz McCausland.
We are Law Tech Partners, and we decided to make a video addressing some of the most commonly asked questions we get through the Florida Bar Tech Helpline. So before we get started, in case you don't know who we are, I'm going to let Liz introduce herself and then I'll go.
Hi, everyone. I'm a Florida bar attorney, and I have practiced for over 25 years in both litigation and in bankruptcies and mediations. I've learned through my solo practice that I need a lot of tech tips. Every day is a different day and a new technological problem. And so I have joined Adriana in an effort to help other lawyers hopefully avoid some of the things that I've had to do.
And you are truly one of the most tech savvy lawyers I know. So hopefully we can share some of your experiences and wisdom with viewers and listeners. And I'm Adriana Linares. I am not a lawyer. I'm a legal technology consultant and trainer. I've been doing this for 26 years. I just want to die when I say that. And 26 years later, I still totally enjoy helping lawyers and law firms. And so we hope that these tips will be helpful for you. We've picked out two main topics. One of them is pretty general, and then the other one's going to actually tie right back to the Florida Bar about accessing PCF cards from the attorney directory on there and addressing a common issue that we see. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to start with just giving you some ideas and suggestions about domain names. A lot of lawyers are going out on their own. Or leaving a large firm and going out on their own, or maybe you're just launching from scratch, and picking a domain name is something that we help a lot of lawyers with. Some of them take our advice. Some of us choose not to take our advice, and then they come back wishing they had taken our advice. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Liz, why don't you just start by just generally describing what a domain name, I know everybody knows, but not only why being careful about the name that you pick and where you buy it and how you're going to use it. Give us some general tips on domain name selections.
Domain name is basically your online address. And this is the address that you're going to give everyone to not only look for your website, but also contact you most likely in your email. And so this domain name, in my opinion, should be easy. It should be something that you don't have to spell if possible. And it should be as short as possible, yet still accurately describe you and the work that you do. Domain names have been around for a while, so a lot of us feel like the good ones are taken. So sometimes you have to think outside the box. And so that's the biggest problem today, I think, with people who come to us for help on their domain name is that the one that they want is taken, and we then have to kind of think outside the box. But also, for a lot of lawyers, they use their name in their domain name. And if your name can be spelled more than one way, then that could be a problem, because you could be potentially pushing that potential client to someone else. They could go to the wrong website, either
Great point.
do that law or something. And you don't want that. And so to me, the shorter, the better, the simpler, the better, and the less spelling, the better. Some areas of practice, like environmental law, are going to be too long. And so I would not suggest it in that case.
That's a great point. And not only is a word like environmental long, it's kind of hard to just type without having to stop and think about it. So there's definitely room for typos in some of these domain names. So yes, great. I agree with everything you said. The one cautionary tale I might give someone is if you're starting out and you decide to practice estate planning, but then a few years later, you either bring on a partner or decide to work in another area of law, then your domain name is a little bit stuck. So I know it's hard to predict the future and where your law firm and your law practice is going to go, but I would always suggest thinking broadly. Unless you are very dedicated, maybe you're board certified and you're not going anywhere, and this is the lane you're always going to swim in, then I think putting the type of law that you practice in the domain name, as long as it's easy to spell and memorable, is really important. Liz, you have probably the easiest domain name and email to ever remember. So tell us a little bit about the process you went through and why you didn't use Elizabeth, why you didn't use McCausland. Like Elizabeth McCausland is long, and McCausland can be spelled about 50 different ways. So tell us about your own law firm domain name picking experience.
Yes. Well, and to be honest, McCausland was my married name. I've since divorced. And so I didn't, it was long. I always had to spell it. So I didn't want to use it, even though that's my name. So I went with something even simpler. I'm known by everyone as Liz. And so my work email, not through Law Tech Partners, but through my law firm, is liz@lizlawfirm.com.
So easy. You literally only have to say it once for people to remember it.
Correct.
LizLawFirm.com. You can always email me at liz@lizlawfirm.com.
Yes. And now I would have done Liz Law, but at the time that was taken. Since then, they've tried to sell it to me for $10,000. So it's never going to be changed from Liz Law Firm at that price. But I will say, and we can maybe talk about this a little bit, Adriana, is I have more than one domain name. So I do virtual mediations. I have virtualmediations.com and some other similar e-mediation things like that I can always use to point to my website if I need to. So people can come to me through the different facets of my practice and still get my website.
That's a great point. So let me just expand on that a little bit. Let's say you have virtualmediations.com, which you do. You don't want to necessarily build a whole nother website for virtualmediations.com. Now, yes, you can. And a lot of marketing experts will tell you that you should. So we're just giving you some ideas and examples. You don't necessarily have to. So what Liz, you could do is have lizlawfirm.com/virtual mediations as a page that contains all of the information about your virtual mediations, and then give someone a card that says virtualmediations.com, liz@virtualmediations.com. And when they type in virtualmediations.com, it would just redirect to the page on your existing website. So just an idea for all of you, especially if, again, you don't know where your practice is going, you might decide to specialize in something later. You can always do something as simple as having multiple domain names that point to either the same website, different pages, or different websites if you end up deciding that that's the direction you want to go in. Great. Where do you buy a domain name?
I bought from GoDaddy. It's well known in the business.
Yep.
It works. So I bought from there.
There's plenty of places you can buy your domain name from, and there's really no right or wrong. I also have always had very good experience with GoDaddy, so I tend to buy all my domain names there. The other thing we want to just warn everyone about, or not necessarily warn, but talk through, is your domain name when you purchase it becomes hopefully your email address. I have a lot of attorneys who have a domain name, but for some reason are using a Gmail address. I'm never really sure. I'm very pro professionals using an @my company or myfirmname.com instead of Gmail. So hopefully this will inspire some of you to get this figured out. So you may have bought at yourlawfirm.com. Now, how do I get that to become also my email address?
So when you go on,
let's use GoDaddy as an example.
When you go on GoDaddy, it will ask you if you'd like to use that address, or what your name is that you'd like to put for that address. And just as a quick pointer tip, again, this is an address that you're going to keep giving to people. And so if you have a hard last name or a name that sometimes people misspell, try not to use your first initial and your last name, which I see a lot of attorneys do. And I understand the reason for it. I mean, obviously, Liz can have more than one Liz, but I can tell you, I'm always going to be the Liz in my office. And so I feel very comfortable with using Liz. For the rest of my staff, I don't use their names. So I have office at Liz Law Firm, clerk at Liz Law Firm. And the reason for that is if I change staff, I don't have to change email addresses. That email address is stored in everyone's, that is mediated with me, et cetera, it's computers. So I won't lose any emails. There won't be any miscommunications as I change staff or anything else. So I would highly recommend that as well if you can do that.
No, I think that's a great tip, especially for solos or smalls as you're growing and expanding, maybe figuring out who the right fit for your office is. I think that's a great suggestion. That way, bringing someone new on board is so easy. They can see all the past emails and information that the previous person may have sent and received. It's a great tip. What about Office 365? Oh, wait. Actually, wait, I meant to say this. You have to be careful when you buy a domain name and then they offer you email. If it's email by itself, a lot of times you are not going to get calendar and contact management, which is why they will then often say or present you with an option to buy Office 365, which to me, every lawyer, every law firm, I don't care where you are, what you practice, how big you are, everyone should have an Office 365 subscription. And Office 365 subscriptions are very reasonably priced. $8 to $12 a month per user. You get all the benefits of Microsoft 365, which we can save for another discussion. But Liz, you bought Office 365 through GoDaddy, and it just made it easy, right? You bought your domain name. It said, hey, do you want email? You said yes. And then it said, oh, but you can also buy Office 365 right through us. We help match your domain name to your email, and it just works.
Yes,
So a lot of times, this is a great and easy solution, and we highly recommend it for a lot, but not all attorneys.
And so where would you get it otherwise if you didn't buy it through GoDaddy or your service provider?
Yeah, this is a good question, and we'll explain why we don't always recommend it. Typically, I want attorneys and law firms that we work with to go directly to Microsoft and buy directly from Microsoft. When you're buying through GoDaddy, you're creating a little bit of a middleman situation where on occasion, if you are looking to integrate Office 365 with third-party services or tools, you're never able to directly click and directly get to your Microsoft 365 account if you have purchased it through GoDaddy. For some of you, this will never create a problem, and you have easily bought a domain name, set up an email, and gotten Office 365, and it's all being billed through one easy invoice. For some of you, if you know that you are going to have a lot of third-party services, that you're really going to build a technology platform for your law firm, and you need a lot of things to integrate with Office, then I typically recommend going to Office 365 for your 365 account. You can still buy your domain name from GoDaddy, and then you connect your Office 365 account to the domain name that GoDaddy has, your account for. It can be a little bit technical, and sometimes you do need to get the help of a tech guy or gal, but also Microsoft walks you through doing this pretty easily. And a GoDaddy Microsoft 365 account, or Bluehost, if that's where you bought your domain name, or domain.com, if that's where you bought it, they will have the instructions on the internet, either on YouTube or right on their own websites, of how to make that connection. So Liz, sometimes I get to talking fast, furiously, and I don't make sense. Can you recap what I said?
Okay. So if you do buy your domain name, and you will, from one of the providers of domain names, they will offer you the opportunity to buy Office 365 when you purchase your domain. Our suggestion is, if you're going to have any kind of third-party apps or integrations, that you don't buy from that provider. Instead, you go straight to Microsoft Office 365 or Microsoft, sorry, and you buy Office 365 there, and it will walk you through connecting the email address with your domain name.
Perfect. Great. And remember, if you get stuck, if you're a member of the Florida Bar, you can always contact me and Liz by going to lawtechpartners.com/tech helpline. Make an appointment. It's free as a Florida Bar member benefit. The second thing I want to address is a question that you got, Liz, over at the Florida Bar Tech Helpline, which is not because of the Florida Bar website, but it's such a good example of something that can happen to your computer. And we're talking mostly about Windows here, but this applies to Macs as well. So tell us real quick, you had a call where somebody wrote, I'm having trouble downloading a VCF, which is a virtual card file, a business card. I'm having trouble downloading VCFs from the Florida Bar Lawyers Directory into Outlook. So this attorney for years would click on someone's V card, it would download it, they would double click to open it, and Outlook would say, hey, I see you've got a VCF card. I'm happy to ingest it and put it in your address book. So what happened to this attorney?
Yeah, so you would just click save, and then all of the information would be there. And for those of you who haven't tried doing that, it is a great service from the Florida Bar. But at some point in time, it got to be so that when she clicked to download it, it would download. And then when she clicked to open it, it would go back to the website and open the card online. And she would then have to save it, find it in her system, and then open it and save it, or save it to her contact. That's a lot. By that time, you could have typed this person in yourself.
Right.
So yeah. And people send V cards on their with their emails, et cetera. So this was happening. And so Adriana, do you want to discuss what the fix there is? And what
Yes. And this is a great fix for a lot of things. So what happens is, every once in a while, there'll be a glitch in the matrix on your computer where something takes over being the default program for opening something. Okay. So the example here is, by default, a .vcf will get opened by Outlook. It's possible that this attorney was using a new machine, had at some point installed some other app, or something happened where the system, Microsoft Windows, and this does happen with Macs as well, and it's an easy fix, says, oh, I'm going to change the default opener for that file extension, in this case .vcf, to something else. And what did you say it was opening in on the web?
It was opening on the web.
Okay. The other good example that we can give you that we know a lot of people face are PDF files. Sometimes when you go to double click a PDF file and open it, it either opens in Adobe Reader versus Adobe Acrobat Pro or DC, or it'll open in a web browser, or it'll open in cute PDF 995 if you had once downloaded and installed it. So how do you address this? Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick and show you how to reset your default programs if this has happened, or just set them in general. So in this case, I'm going to go to Windows, I'm going to go to the Start button, and I'm going to type in the words default. When you type in default, just to do a search on Windows, you get the hit that you want, which is default apps. So there's a whole control panel for setting your default apps that will open file types. So if I type in here .vcf to see what is controlling .vcf files right now, you can see mine actually goes to Outlook, which is what we want. In the case of this attorney, she had probably Chrome or maybe Edge here. So Liz could see immediately that this was pretty easy. Her default program had changed. So in this example, I'm going to click on here and see this window. You'll see it often, especially if you're opening something for the first time, or if for some reason Windows doesn't have the default set, then you get to choose. So here you can choose from what it's offering you. Like, let's say I don't use Outlook, and for some weird reason I use the contacts, the address book that's built into Windows. I would change this to Windows Contacts and then scroll down. You can also always look for another app. So you get some choices here. In this case, I definitely want it to stay as Outlook. For the attorney that we helped, this was switched to Outlook, and then OK was clicked. And now from now on, whenever she double clicked a VCF file, it would open in Outlook. This happens a lot with PDF files. So you can always type .pdf in here, see what is the controlling program for that file type, and either leave it or change it. Side tip, almost all computers come with Adobe Reader, which is fine. But if you have subscribed to a professional version of Acrobat or one of Acrobat's competitors like Power PDF, you want to uninstall Reader. So you don't want to have two programs that are meant to do the same thing, because that can cause some confusion with different programs and where they're sending those files. So I definitely would uninstall the things you aren't using, and always make sure your default programs are set right. All right, well, we'll be back in a week or so with another episode of Law Tech Tips. We'll keep addressing a lot of these common issues and hope they help. If you have any questions, issues, ideas for a short video like this, please email us at training@lawtechpartners.com. We hope to hear from you soon.
Bye now.